Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Talking about some indies today. Christy, Ben, Alonzo, getting started with the latest from a filmmaker named So-Young Kim. This is Lovesong, which is not her first film named for a Cure song.
Oh.
She also did In Between Days.
Oh, this is not a coincidence, I take it. And somebody else already did Just Like Heaven, so she can't have
That's
Just
true,
Like Heaven.
Taken.
She could have 10:15 on a Saturday night, though. Okay, so this is this really lovely indie. Jenna Malone and Riley Keough play best friends from college. Riley Keough is a young mom. She's got a 3-year-old daughter living somewhere north of the city in New York. And her husband, played by Cary Fukunaga, only on Skype, is gone quite a bit. And so she invites her best friend to come visit her, and they go on a road trip. And they realize that maybe there's some stuff between them that they left unexplored, and perhaps they should explore it. Take a look.
I should go. I'm already running late. I'll take you later, okay? Bye.
Bye.
Do you think I'm a good mommy?
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm going crazy.
It's okay to feel a little crazy, but it's not fair to you to have to do it all by yourself. Let's go have some fun.
There's a Pauline Kael line that I always thought was funny. Do you remember an 80s movie called Entre Nous with Isabelle Huppert? It's about two French women who are best friends and sort of get each other through various, adult crises. And Kael described it as, this is a movie about two women not having a lesbian affair. And Lovesong is a movie about two women almost having a lesbian affair, but neither can quite get there.
Yeah, and the thing is that the two best friends going on a road trip together to reconnect and work through stuff is like its own indie subgenre.
Oh, totally, yeah.
This is done, it's been done so many times. Like Alex Ross Perry did it with Queen of Earth a couple years ago.
Old Joy.
Old Joy, yes. It's the best friends go out in the middle of nowhere and they reconnect, and stuff bubbles to the surface, and the silence and the beauty. And but this is shot so beautifully.
Yes.
It's really dreamlike, but there's also like a gritty kind of tactile nature. I'm using all the words you guys like. It's germane, and it has gravitas. But it has a lovely visual mix of stuff between like the kind of gauziness and the use of sunlight, but also like the kind of grungy places that they go on their road trip.
Well, there's
lovely,
two cinematographers, which is kind of cool. So like the first half of the film is shot by one person, and then the next part where one of the the Jenna Malone character is getting married is shot by somebody else, and that works well with how the story is being told. I think.
Yeah, and it's right at the halfway point that the movie changes. Yeah, I don't want to say what happens, but like a few years pass by and they reconnect again. Go ahead.
I'll use first of all, I always sitting down talking to you guys realize, man, I miss a lot.
You watched it late at night though. It was
I did, and I liked it very much. But I mean, gauziness is a good word. A lesbianness would be another word that people might like. But it is but I was unclear. So. Was there a moment? Did they have a full-on moment? We don't see anything, but I mean the night that
the implication is that they have spent the night together.
They spent the night together,
and the next morning,
meaningful.
one of them wants to talk about it, and one of them does not.
That's right.
And then they move on from there.
Because they're young, they're young and they're at really different places
That's
in their
the
lives.
key,
I mean, you
they're
realize
not,
they're 24 years old.
They're 24 years old, and one of them has a 3-year-old, and one of them's being a 24-year-old.
Yeah.
So it puts them in very different places. They're both so sweet. Right, I mean, and I don't mean that. I mean that in the like they both see they're decent people. They care very much about the other one. The Jenna Malone character cares deeply not only about Sarah but about the kid. Just you presume not because that's her best friend's kid, and she wants to connect. And their conversations their goofy conversations are meaningful. And their serious conversations are meaningful. So I don't know. I thought it was really. I did not know what was going to happen. I made the mistake because it was late and I was worried about falling asleep. As I read the Wikipedia entry.
Oh,
it's so short, but but it's wrong.
Right.
I mean,
it
just suggests a slightly different set of circumstances.
Okay.
It suggests definitiveness to the affair, and there isn't. and it suggests complete no contact afterwards, which is also not quite right either.
Okay.
But it's better. The movie is better. In a weird development, the movie is better than the Wikipedia entry about the movie.
So watch the movie first and then read the Wikipedia page, or don't.
This is a movie that traffics in silence a lot and does it really well. So like, there's a lot of glances and just the way that people are around each other tells you a lot more than these sort of declarations of intent or of feeling or whatever.
And like the fiance in the movie is good and kind. I like movies where everybody is kind. Like
well, Rosanna Arquette as the mother is a bit of a handful.
She is, right, but I mean, it's like, so they give us one, but it's a mom and a mother-in-law, and I think that many of us who have mothers and or mother-in-laws, I won't say which one I have the issue with. That is that again just makes it incredible. But everybody else there was just a decency to, and I don't know whether it's the political times or just the onslaught in the television we watch of just characters who have, who cherish cruelty, right? To see sort of kind people behave in grown-up ways and deal with grown-up problems, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, and there's like a timelessness to the conflict here, right? You say that there's no bad guy, but the conflict is like as old as storytelling itself, like wrong place, wrong time.
Right.
And we should have connected and it didn't work out for whatever reason. And you mentioned that the glances and the way it's shot, there's a lovely long take on the Ferris wheel.
Oh yeah.
They go to this amusement park during their road trip, or this carnival rather, and it's just the camera going back and forth between the two of them the morning after, and like they stay so much just with their eyes and their body language, and then the little girl is there too, and she adds to the dynamic of it, and it's done in a really subtle, really like quietly observant way that just communicates volumes.
I know gay people who got annoyed with this movie because they feel like, oh, it's 2017, why are we still telling these stories about, longing and people who can't, address their own feelings or whatever, and I'm like, this is still a reality for a whole lot of people. Like, and if for the ones who don't move to large urban centers or have supportive families or supportive groups of friends, there is this presumption of heterosexuality as being the default. That for people who are, in the middle ground on the Kinsey scale, that's the easy way out. Like they can think about or flirt with the notion of this one way to go, but then ultimately, if like I said, if there are three, if there are four, it's like, all right, well, there's this guy and he's fine and I like him well enough, and it's easier to marry this guy and have this life than it would be to try and figure out what that other life that I don't know anything about and that I find kind of scary would be. So I think it's a very relevant story, and I think that it doesn't feel like a throwback.
I don't want to get mad at people who I didn't have a conversation with, but I mean,
but do it.
But so what if we still have to tell these stories? Because ultimately, it's a story, and it was a story that mattered to the director. And every story. It's very rare that we tell a new story, and I don't think indie movies should be held to a standard that we don't hold Showtime television shows to. I mean, they literally tell the same story every season, on some of these shows. So.
Well, I think it might have been the fact that it's a straight filmmaker. She and her husband co-wrote it, so it's like. When you get, not that straight people can't tell queer stories. I mean, Barry Jenkins, who wrote and directed Moonlight, did it brilliantly, but obviously working from source material from a gay writer. But again, this isn't my point of view. I think the movie works, and I think it's effective, and I think it's relevant. But I can see where for some people it's like there's been the history of queer cinema has been so much about like. The longing, and then it doesn't happen, and it's kind of like we went through that for so long. It's sort of at times if you tell that story, it feels like are we still in this? But we are still in this. We as a society are still in this, and so this story I think is still relevant.
Right. And there's no condemnation to the way things play out. It's not like, oh, you shouldn't have been gay that time at the music park. I mean, it's sad and it's true and it's emotional.
No,
it is about a kind of a missed opportunity and
which is transcendent, I think, of
But
everything.
to me, it's and again because I'm dumb, but. But like again, this story could be told, and I get it that it's different if you're talking about gay people because because there's an actual struggle there that straight people don't have. But this movie could have been about any two people missing it. It becomes more interesting, I suppose. But also, and if the filmmaker might have been straight, but we don't know her history, right? We know she's married now.
True.
And I think they used
She could have had some experiences.
Yeah.
the kids, the actresses who played the kids. This I learned from Wikipedia, so it's it's
Please
true.
tell us.
Though there's a year progression, and so the kids were sisters, which is nice, and were the daughter of the co-writer. Was the co-writer the husband?
Yeah.
Well, then they're their kids.
The little girl, Jessie, when she's 3, is especially good. But also, these two actresses were so great together. And there's a real efficiency with the script that defines who they are very quickly. We feel like we know who they are very quickly because their dialogue is so vivid to detail, to outline who they are, what their dynamic is. Riley Keough also was so great in American Honey.
Yes,
And this
movie
is a
I
really
hated,
different
but I
role.
loved her in it.
I didn't hate American Honey, but I like her in it, and this is a totally different role for her. Jenna Malone's good in everything.
And if you haven't watched The Girlfriend Experience on Starz, she's
is she?
really great in that. And in fact, actually, the woman who kind of spearheaded the show, Amy Seimetz, is in the
Is
film.
also in this. Yeah, it's interesting supporting cast. Like Brooklyn Decker is in
Yeah.
it, and Amy Seimetz. And one thing too, they get really, really right here is when you go to a bachelorette party with people you don't know, like maybe you know the bride and nobody else, it's super awkward.
Yeah, but
Like all that forced female whimsy is really awkward. I've done that.
we've taken too long.
Penis-shaped
But
everything.
we went too long without mentioning how great they both were.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
that's why this movie works.
They
Is that
are.
they're great, and that
Script,
those
and they're great.
silences, they nail the silences. And I have a new crush on one of them.
We won't say which one. Okay, so what are our numbers
Guess
then?
in the comments.
I'm going big. I'm saying 9. I love this movie. This is like early possible top 10 material for me.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay. 7.5. I think it's really well acted, and there is a sense of, we mentioned Old Joy. It has that same sense of pages of unwritten dialogue, which I like a lot.
I was going to give it a 7.5, but I raised it to a 7.7 because it is almost the best ever portrayal of a Skype conversation in the history of movies.
Okay. Was that a little-
Spectacularly awkward, and sorry, what?
We
It was
like
really good.
authenticity here.
Yeah.
So our number is an 8.1. It's only at 74%.
It's really
on
good.
Tomato
It's
Meter,
really
but
good.
it's better than that.
It's
And
quick and
it nails the ending, I will say.
Yes.
It's
Yes, it
hard
does.
to nail the ending.
they nailed the ending.
It's making its way around. Look for it.
Bye.